to all hostility. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Republic of Korea for the statement, and I'll give the floor to the representative of Russian Federation.
Mr. President, I would like to very warmly thank our Western colleagues for convening this Security Council meeting on Ukraine, because a huge corruption scandal has just erupted there. It involves top officials of the Kiev regime. For us, this comes as no surprise. At almost every meeting, we have told you that you are dealing with a thieving, corrupt pack profiting from war with your money. It was not even a secret that fell open. It was so obvious that only the blind could fail to notice it. And here one is tempted to ask a question from a well-known skit which would be familiar to Russian and Ukrainian audiences. Question, where's the money? Answer, what money? On the 10th of November, the Ukraine's National Anti-Corruption Bureau, after a series of searches, reported uncovering large-scale embezzlement at Energoatom, which is the operator of Ukraine's nuclear power plants. According to the investigation, the organizer and the main beneficiary of the illegal enrichment scheme was Timur Mindich, Zelensky's longtime associate. NABU says that in just 1 year, members of this criminal network laundered about $100 million in kickbacks. And the same corruption scheme operated in the defense sector. The true scale of this scandal is something that we can only guess at right now, but here's just the tip of the iceberg. I haven't heard anyone at this meeting say a word about that. Meanwhile, Zelensky continues to tour European cities, begging for money and weapons to spend it for his own benefit and that of his inner circle. But Europe has no money left for Ukraine. Europe needs to rearm its own armies to prepare, as they hysterically claim, be ready for war with Russia by 2030. And where will they get money for Ukraine? Well, they can be stolen by stealing Russia's sovereign assets, for example. But this hasn't worked so far. So they resort to whipping up anti-Russian hysteria to scare and unsettle impressionable Europeans. For example, with alleged Russian drones entering airspace, the UK Defence Secretary John Healey dispatched British fighters and a frigate to monitor the Russian oceanographic vessel called Yantar. No sooner had an incident occurred with damaged railway tracks in Poland committed, according to the Polish authorities themselves, by 2 Ukrainians, than Warsaw declared, clearly without showing any evidence of the fact that the trail leads to Russia, because it was an act of state terrorism carried out by Ukrainians working for Russian intelligence. And the speed of arriving at such conclusions by Polish authorities is truly astounding. We, after all, remember well who was the first to thank the United States in the Biden administration for the Nord Stream terrorist attack. It was Poland's current foreign minister, Sikorski. Now, on the ground situation, the position of Ukraine's armed forces remains dire, not to say catastrophic. Russian troops are successfully advancing on almost all fronts, essentially. According to Russia's Ministry of Defense, in the past week, several towns and villages in Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporozhye regions was liberated, and in the DPR. Ukrainian military equipment, including Neptune launchers and U.S.-made HIMARS systems, being systematically destroyed, including command posts of the Ukrainian army, fortifications, armored vehicles, ammunition depots, and drone control centers. Supply lines are also being disrupted. Ukrainian units continue to suffer heavy losses and rapidly lose fighting capability. Ukrainian forces are stymied in major strategic hubs such as Krasnoarmeysk, which is formerly Pokrovsk, in Dimitrov, and Kupiansk, Kupiansk has been liberated. Kiev denies this, citing Russian propaganda. In late October, President Putin proposed granting unhindered access there for foreign journalists, including Ukrainian ones, to make sure that they can see firsthand what the situation is. Russian command was ready to suspend hostilities for 5 to 6 hours to create safe corridors for the press, but Kiev, of course, refused. And leading Western media and journalist associations also remained silent. Indeed, why would you want to learn the truth that would shatter Zelensky's carefully spread myths about Ukraine's invincible army? Ukrainian failures are accompanied by very brutal actions against civilians, which remain in contested cities. Nationalists call them ждун, those who are waiting. Those who want to stay and then later move to the Russian side. On the 14th of November, 7 civilians killed in the DPR by targeted Ukrainian drone and mortar attacks were trying to evacuate a local priest, his wife, and parish families as they were trying to evacuate. They were methodically hunted down, and then the villagers were prevented from retrieving and burying the bodies as drones continued hunting for them. The fact that Ukrainian forces use civilians as human shields, place command posts in private homes, deploy air defenses in residential areas, conduct military operations in densely populated cities is something that's also being confirmed by foreign journalists now, who can hardly be suspected of being pro-Russian. But deliberate killing of isolated civilians fleeing combat zones is beyond evil, let alone humanitarian law. Between 20th October and 16th of November of this year, 307 Russian civilians were harmed by Ukrainian shelling. 260 people were wounded, including 20 minors, and 47 were killed, and this includes 2 children. Overall, civilian targets in Russian territory during this period received, at the very least, 13,195 munition rounds. Villages in the Lugansk and Donetsk People's Republics, Kherson, Zaporozhye, Belgorod, Bryansk, Kursk, and Moscow regions were harmed, as well as Saratov, Novorossiysk, and Volgograd were hit. But the UN Secretary General and his spokesperson show neither courage to speak about this nor words to express sympathy for the victims. But they very readily strongly condemn any Russian strikes based on any information, be it verified or not verified, provided to them by the UN resident coordinator in Ukraine, Shmale. We're not at war with Ukrainian civilians. Our forces act with maximum responsibility, striking only military targets, and they're supporting transport, energy infrastructure of Ukraine. According to leaked military documents, Ukraine's armed forces have lost more than 1.7 million troops since the start of the special operation. And this year alone, as of August, that figure was more than 600,000. Massive, irrecoverable losses are indirectly confirmed by body exchanges. When we return thousands of Ukrainian soldiers' remains and only receive about 20-30 bodies in return, it is very clear that Ukrainian troops under these conditions are fleeing en masse. In October alone, the record 21,000 soldiers deserted, which is the equivalent of 4 brigades. To replenish the law.
Для восполнения потерь ведется беспрецедентная по уровню насилия мобилизация. В ход идут закрытие границ, блокировка банковских счетов, приостановка водительских прав и просто отлов людей на улицах. И хотя украинские пропагандисты и тут пытаются свалить все на российские фейки, международные СМИ не смогли проигнорировать неожиданное, но очень красноречивые доказательства. В начале ноября Украину с визитом посетила Анджелина Джоли. Ее охранника задержали прямо у нее на глазах и доставили для проверки призывной пункт. Всего за пару недель до этого инцидента таким же образом был мобилизован украинский журналист, работающий с британскими корреспондентами из издания «Сан». На этом фоне продолжает обсуждаться снижение возраста для обязательной мобилизации с 25 до 22 лет. 12 ноября мэр Киева Виталий Кличко озвучил эту инициативу в интервью изданию «Политика». Так дело скоро дойдет и до Гитлер-Югенда. Господин председатель, несмотря на окружение значительного количества украинских войск, колоссальные потери, насильственную мобилизацию, угрозы для мирного населения, главарь киевского режима запрещает признавать утрату городов, отдает приказы об удержании позиций до последнего бойца, запрещает отступать. Такая линия украинского руководства не имеет никакого отношения к военной реальности и носит чисто политический характер. Зеленский хочет показать западным спонсорам, что фронт держится, с расчетом на продолжение финансирования войны с Россией. Ему нужны миллиарды долларов для того, чтобы война продолжалась, в том числе для обогащения его и его приснов, и сохранялись основания для того, чтобы оставаться у власти. При этом со стороны Киева мы слышим отчаянные призывы о прекращении огня. Это же мы слышим и от европейских подельников Зеленского. Цена этим призывам нам очевидна. Так называемое немедленное и скорейшее прекращение огня необходимо им лишь для того, чтобы терпящие поражение за поражением ВСУ получили долгожданную передышку. Что же касается лицемерных призывов наших бывших европейских партнеров к миру, то режим Зеленского и его кураторы не нацелены на мир, а эскалация противостояния в их интересах. Еще на прошлой неделе первый замминных дел Украины, хорошо знакомый вам Кислица, прямо сказал, что Киев официально приостановил мирные переговоры с Москвой. Фактически еще летом украинская делегация перестала реагировать на предложения России, в том числе касающиеся создания рабочих групп по политическим, гуманитарным и военным вопросам. Что же касается нынешних заявлений Зеленского из Стамбула и европейских столиц, то это не что иное, как попытка отвлечь внимание от чудовищного коррупционного скандала. Мы с самого первого дня ясно заявили о целях спецоперации. Неблоковая Украина, ее денацификация, прекращение гонений на всю русскую, соблюдение прав всех живущих там граждан. Однако подлинного желания Киева сесть за стол переговоров для того, чтобы обсудить ключевые аспекты решения украинского кризиса, мы не видим. Господин председатель, хотели бы в заключение в очередной раз зафиксировать наше принципиальное несогласие с приглашением на сегодняшнее заседание делегаций столь большого числа стран по правилам 37 и 39. Их, помимо Украины, набралось целых 7, и все они целых 6, и все они являются членами либо союзниками НАТО и ЕС. Руководствуются сугубо блоковой дисциплиной, абсолютно никакой добавленной стоимости дискуссии не привносит. Каждый раз эти делегации тратят ценное время Совета, зачитывая, по сути, одни и те же заезженные тезисы, к тому же практически копирующие выступления представителей Евросоюза. Мы категорически против превращения заседаний Совета Безопасности в ток-шоу с целью под камерой отработать методичку для своей внутренней аудитории. Считаем, что такой подход подрывает авторитет Совета. Благодарю вас.
I thank the representative of Russian Federation for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, Director Goto, Director Wasornu,